Glancing over at Rogue, Gabriel gave her a reassuring smile. She looked like she had the world against her, and he knew only too well what that was like. "How are you, Rogue?" he asked. "I'm just great, sugar," she said half-heartedly. "Liar. Please, Gabriel, I just need to think." "Okay." Rogue decided that there was only one person she could turn to. Tensing her shoulders, she moved out of the kitchen, more determined to help Madeline to ease her own guilt. Madeline awoke, her senses flooding her back into consciousness. Unfortunately, her sense of touch was not being kind. Her diaper, the one she was locked in, was wet. It may have only been a little wet, but it could just have been saturated, because after another 28 hours stuck in these diapers, the rash would be the same. "No," Madeline said to her reflection on the wall mirror. "I am taking these pants off now." She put her hand on the plastic and pushed through the plastic. Phasing through the pants wouldn't take any time at all. As always, there was a slight resistance as Madeline's fingertips moved into another phase. But this time the resistance didn't change. It was constant. It was as if the pants moved in and out of phase with her body. Madeline collapsed back onto the bed. The tiny shutter in the center of the locking X opened. A semi-transparent Mystique gazed down on Madeline. "Tried to use your powers, have you?" Mystique gloated. "Only bad babies try to wiggle out of their diapers when mommy says that you aren't allowed to take your diapers off. This means you will have to be punished. Babies cannot speak. Now neither can you. Babies are not allowed to use sharp objects. Now neither are you. Babies cannot read. Now neither can you, and of course babies cannot operate door handles. Now neither can you. But to show my disappointment in you, Madeline, you now have to spend another 12 hours in those plastic punishment pants." The tears were falling openly from Madeline when she heard the final statement. She could have survived, barely, with those sanctions placed on her. But another 12 hours in an already wet diaper, that went beyond humiliation. She had to get help, and she needed it now. Madeline didn't even bother trying to put on her skirt. She just stepped into a pair of tight green sport shorts and pulled her dressing gown over her. Then she saw it facing her. One of last things Mystique had said had turned Madeline's quiet little room into a tomb. Her door was closed. Madeline had her first temper tantrum in 13 years. Throwing herself against her bed, her floor, and trying to break and smash every piece of furniture in her room. Madeline cried furious tears, white-hot rage poured from her eyes. Madeline's final act before she would allow her exhausted body to stop was to start jumping on her floor. If she couldn't use the door, she would leave using the newly created hole in the floor. The solid oak under the pastel carpet didn't give an inch as Madeline's frame impacted against it. She could do nothing to escape, and nothing was her only companion at the moment. Exhausted, Madeline threw herself back onto her bed and cried the last of her rage out into her pillow. Gabriel stood in the danger room, underwhelmed. "This is it," he thought out loud. "I hope you're still saying that at the end of these exercises, kid." Logan said, his voice piping in from the control room. "Me too," Gabriel muttered to himself. "Don't worry, you have a chicken switch on your chest," Logan said. "If get into real trouble, just punch it and the exercise stops. I have to go and speak to Charles, but the first exercise is just fitness drills, so you have nothing to worry about." "Sure thing," Gabriel said, hitting the activation switch on his wrist. Madeline woke up a little later and a little wetter. "Lol fam, try," she gurgled to her mocking reflection. The door was still closed and she was still locked in. "Me prr Gog said." Madeline lisped, shaking her head to remind herself that speaking wasn't a fun thing to do. Moving to the door, she thrust her hands through the wood as it wasn't there, then pushed herself through the door frame. It almost worked, except for the pink doorstop hanging around her midriff. Madeline could lean forward, backwards, roll left and right, but the pants still refused to move through another solid object. Sliding back into her room, Madeline slid down the door and put her head against it. She couldn't shout for help. Or open the door. Or pry it open. Or try and take the plastic pants off. Nothing else could possibly go wrong.